Hello and welcome to A Deadly Silence. I'm your host, Larry Curtis, and it is the goal of all of us associated with our program to bring you current and educational information dealing with the drug and alcohol epidemic, not only here throughout the city of Brockton, but throughout all of our South Shore communities. Today, our guest is Janice Boetti. Janice is the mother of Michael Gray, who died from an accidental overdose back on August 29th of 2013. Janice, welcome to our show, and we look forward to hearing your story.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and
Well,
Michael.
grew up in Medford, had married, my business is in Medford, had my kids there, and it wasn't until 2004 before we moved up to Haverhill, bought a house, and my son Michael at the time was entering 10th grade. So I thought that was kind of hard for him, but he fit right in. Medford's a hockey town, so he played hockey and got right on the team. He was an A student, took care of his brother. He was just that, kind of a kid that everyone liked.
Was there a reason the relocation from Medford to Haverhill was?
It was basically, I didn't want to go past 30 minutes to drive back and forth to work.
Okay.
Haverhill was someplace we could afford. So we ended up there.
Okay.
I don't know why to this day we say we ended up in Haverhill, but met a lot of nice people.
Okay.
And
choice move. Actually, my mother and sister live in Haverhill as well, up in the Bradford area.
Yep.
Right, yeah. So Michael's a sophomore. 10th grade, you said?
he was in 10th grade.
10th grade.
And
Leaving, was it Medford High School?
Medford High School
And
on the hockey team, and straight A
Right.
student, and kind of
Excellent.
scared of, especially high school, going into 10th grade. But he did well. Met friends and girlfriends, and
He joined the hockey team up there
joined
in
the
Haverhill?
hockey team, made it right away.
Okay. So he's found a pair of friends to work
and
with and blended in basically very
blended
well.
in well, and
Yeah.
these boys took him in just like he was there since he grew up with them in kindergarten.
Excellent. So what happened?
I think Michael's expectations, he wanted to go to that 4-year college. I wasn't ready to sign on the dotted line for a 4-year college because I wasn't sure if I was going to be with his dad for the duration.
Right.
So I was kind of preparing myself for what could be the next venture for me. And I think that particular year, from just having to go to a community college, having to work nights, going to school days, and then he worked days, going to school nights. And I just think with his peers, he was supposed to be graduating at this time, and he was still at the community college. And a lot with his dad, he didn't have the relationship that I think he wanted to have, and then grieving what you don't have. And then his dad had to work 2 jobs, so he wasn't around a lot, but hockey was their thing together.
So there was a lot of what I want to call basically life challenges for any family.
Yes, for any
for any family that you'd go into. And in essence, these things were bothering him to a certain extent.
Was bothering him, and I didn't realize the anxiety that he kind of had. And I think being a boy, you tend to push your mother away a little bit, and you don't want to not be, not sad, but you don't want to show your mother all your emotions. But as a mother, you know something's not right.
Yeah. So his escape was, or his fulfillment was when he was playing hockey, and with those
boys, and those boys did not do any of this.
So he had graduated high school.
Oh yeah, graduated.
So he graduated high school, still with his peers, while some had gone off to
the 4-year
colleges. He's
stayed back in the city
and going through the community college and things of that nature. And that's economics for all of us. It doesn't, from that perspective.
But I think sometimes from the kids' point of view that, they want them to reach their stars and do this, and, everybody's, going to college, everyone. So I think in his mind, he wasn't where I think he thought he should be.
So you're looking at it as just normal growing pains of any young adult at this point in time, because he's 19, 20 by now. So when did you begin to see some type of a real change that was a flag for you?
He started really staying out late. Never really. He was a homebody. He was home and in bed at 9 o'clock. And then I worked at the pizza shop till 11, and then we stayed out for a while and couldn't get up. And then when it got to a point where I think I was getting ready to leave his dad, and I didn't want to leave it without my children, so I needed them to be on board with it. And it was after a few years of me wondering what was wrong with Michael, not really putting my finger on what it was, or maybe I didn't want to see at that time what it really was. They finally said to me in one night that, we can't take this no more, Mom. Let's find an apartment. So we moved out that September. That was in the spring. We moved out that September. And Michael had a hard time with that. Like, he would say every now and then, he'd be like, so do you think, like when you're getting in the car and you forgot something? He goes, we forgot Dad. Yeah. We moved, but we forgot Dad. And we kept in touch. We still had holiday together. We still celebrated. He still was their father. It just, I didn't want to have that.
So aside from the personal adolescent growing pains that he's experiencing, he's also seeing separation of his parents that he's lived with all his life, and the torment between, do you take a side, or
and that's
whatever.
what I think he was. I think he knew I was strong enough to survive. I think he knew, but he also was very upset that we were leaving his dad behind.
Yeah.
So they would sleep over on weekends, just like any other. But they were older. They were they were older kids. It wasn't like you were 4 years old and you're going with your fathers for the weekend. And one night after work, it was 9 months after we moved out. One night after work, Michael had come home. It was about 11:30, and he heard the shower running. And he's like, God, that seems like an awful long time. And he found his dad dead.
Oh, my goodness.
So that, I think, spent for that 2 years, it just, that's when I found out it was heroin. That's when I find out it, none of his friends. It was a whole different set of people. He would keep his friends, but keep them at bay. But not let him in. He was so embarrassed, I think, of the road that he went down.
So can I step back a little bit and just talk about the passing of his dad? What was that due to an addiction issue, or was that just
his dad had
a normal
a bad heart?
Okay.
And when we got married back in '85, he had a heart attack, and then had another heart attack and had bypass surgery. And
so
it was a deteriorating thing.
Okay.
He was almost 60. Not that that's old. It's not old.
I hope it's not old.
Not old, but I think the abuse that his body suffered over the years.
Yeah.
It took a toll.
So a natural cause situation.
We knew it was going to be at a time, but not that time. Not within 9 months of me leaving.
Okay. So a natural cause, the trauma of finding his father passed.
And I think he felt as if he had to be the head of household now.
Do you think that was like the catalyst that drove him to begin to experiment?
No, he was already dibbling, but I didn't know he was dibbling.
As most parents don't.
You don't know till you find things, and you kind of like.
And even when you find things, you're
like,
not
no,
sure.
that's not that.
Right. Okay.
And you kind of.
Okay. So with the traumatic experience of finding his father passed on, he indulges more in all probability.
Much more.
Yeah.
And he went into 2 rehabs that particular year. And they weren't long, and that's what people kept telling me. I assumed that once you went away that 4 or 5 days, okay, this is good, now we're done. No.
Detox versus rehab.
Yeah, I didn't understand that whole...
The lack of understanding as a parent.
And not knowing, and not knowing the whole lingo in the system and all of that. I had no idea of what a road the next 2 years were going to be.
So let's, again, back up a little bit. You identify, obviously, he's been dabbling in drugs. He's now a little bit more influenced. Was it, cocaine? Was it?
I think it was a little bit of everything. He tried.
He progressed.
I think he did the oxys in the beginning.
Okay.
Then it went to, I guess, some pills, some like Valium or whatever their thing is. And then it was after the whole bit of, stealing from everyone and, going through that whole route of thing. then I guess the heroin is cheaper. They go to the
All
heroin.
right, so he progressed ultimately to using heroin in the end, and during the course of that, to support that habit,
Right.
he was doing what we, as parents, know of addicts: the stealing,
Everything.
the lying,
Everything.
the breaking and entering.
Where is it?
aspects.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Everything, and you
Right.
know as a
Okay.
parent, you know what you have, you know what you said, but then you want to believe your kid, but it's
Right.
you're kind of torn.
Okay.
You know.
Okay, let's shift gears just a little bit, and as the mother, obviously, with all the trauma that has taken place over the past year now, the passing of his father, and now you're full-blown addict, of his son. What was happening with you? I mean, from that perspective there in relationship to...
That's the other thing that a lot of, I've been in business for 35 years.
Yep.
And you can't go into work crying to people. You got to do your work. You need your job. You need your people. And so I would go into work and I'd put the Janice smiley hairdresser face on, and and there were some people that knew, like, what's the matter, and so those are the people you let in a little bit, and but basically, I couldn't go into work every day because not only did I get tired of hearing myself, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Until you do something. You can only talk and talk until you actually do something, and that's when, I decided to move out and do this and, make the steps that, instead of not believing it and, oh, it's not happening, or, you don't want to see that.
How did you find that process of, as a parent, obviously dealing with an addict for the first time, and what did you find the resources that were out there in the different agencies or support groups or things, not only for you, but even
for other people? Lots of times, the meetings are really good to to help people from not just a narcotic meeting, alcohol meeting, and even not just an Al-Anon meeting. They kind of give you a sense. It just, I think talking to people, talking to other people, like a doctor will tell you to try this and you'll try that. Someone will say, well, I went here. It's not like written in stone. You just got to kind of get something from this person and, oh, you take that. And someone said to try this. And the fortunate thing for Michael was he was on Mass Health, so money as far as getting help wasn't an issue. Whereas when you have regular insurance, sometimes mental health there is no money for it.
Correct.
Nothing.
Right.
And you want your kids to go in. Okay, you can go in for 2 days, but if you have, $20,000, you can go in for 3 weeks. Or So it's good that Mass Health had the places, but it was from Haverhill down here. He was down here on someplace, I forget what the name of it was, down here once for a month.
MATC, the Men's Addiction Treatment Center. Yeah,
that place.
Which is a division of the High Point group out of
that.
Plymouth. Right.
And it just, I just didn't understand until, that 2 years later that, you need long-term. These 2 and 3 weeks, 4-week things, it goes much further. And when you don't understand that whole road, you just think 2 or 3 days, and okay, this is good, he's going to be good.
Did you find that Michael was asking for help when he did he hit bottom?
No.
Or did he ask for help?
I found it was me being the one giving him the ultimatum.
Okay. So
of going. You can't live here unless you do this. You can't do this. You got to do this. Okay. And that was one thing that I struggled with was, how come he didn't want it? It's me that wants it.
Okay.
So that was really hard. So we had friends at different times take them and pick them up.
Right. The enabling aspects to a certain extent.
And he did say that to me. He ended up living for like about a 2.5 month period in a sober living house in Lynn.
Okay.
The Chase House. And it was pretty scary, me letting him move in there. But he finally became his own for that time, living on his own, supporting himself or what he could support himself with. And he said that to me many a times. You're an enabler, Mom. I love you, but you're an enabler. And as a mom, you want to pick up the pieces. You want to do what you think is right.
It's a very fine line
to cross
as a parent to identify whether I'm enabling my child or whether I think I'm helping, supporting my child.
Right.
Absolutely. It's a very fine line. And I think every parent that experiences an addiction of a loved one has to, go through that. And, as it's said in many, many times, that ultimately the addict has to ask for help themselves. There isn't anything that we as parents, friends, relatives, whatever, is going to make it until the addict themselves says, I need help. I need help. Where can I find it?
And he really didn't come to anybody with that.
That's tough. So he's an addict now. You're dealing with the parental guidance and hope of helping your child. He's entered into a couple of detoxes, it sounds like.
Couple of detoxes, couple of programs. Then I ended up at the end of, I ended up tough loving it with him because it, like you said, it just was coming from me. It wasn't coming from him. And so many people are like, you got to tough love it. And it's really hard to do that.
Now, were you getting support from there's organizations like Learn to Cope?
I wasn't getting anything. I have to say I have such a great support group from friends and family, let alone my business, that I'm talking all day long. So I'm not saying that they're specialists, but I think by me always talking about it and not pushing it behind made it easy for me to deal with, so to say.
And you're dealing with it at that time because you're the parent who's facing it.
That I have to.
You're making the call, and I think every one of us as a parent who's dealing with an addict of that sort, we think we do that, but in reality, what we find out in the end is that there are a tremendous number of support groups out there, like a Learn to Cope, that is going to deal with the family and the loved ones, of the addict, not the addict himself.
If I didn't have that, I would definitely have to reach out because you don't know until you talk to people, and it's everyone's kid. It's it's a teacher's kid, it's a cop kid, it's everyone's kid.
Okay, so we've got a full-blown addict using heroin, tried to detox, some rehab. It sounds like, you had him at halfway health
thing.
So all right, so he was on some methadone and things of that nature. And what happened that August evening?
After a long bout, he did 2 bouts of 12-week IV drug therapy because when I tough loved it in September of 2012, I totally walked away from the house in Haverhill, cut all his ties, and that was it. I didn't contact him, nothing. I had to. So he was on the methadone in October I heard from people that had been talking to him. And he, one night, did a shot of cocaine in his arm. Even though he didn't have the heroin, he did cocaine, even though he was on the methadone. Well, it landed him in the hospital in December with an endocarditis heart thing from the dirty needle, and he ended up with hepatitis. His liver was enlarged. He needed IV more than the rehab. So every time he went into the 12-week IV thing and he needed pain medicine, then the methadone went up. And then he needed more pain, and then so it was a constant, so it was tug of wars of everything. So he did a cold turkey last April, did another 12-week stint, got out at the end of June. July 4th weekend, I had a graduation party for my younger son because he delayed a year graduating from everything going on. And from July 4th to August 29th, he didn't go to work. He slept. I just knew something wasn't right, and he was going to the doctors, getting pills again. He was, I found a straw under his bed again. And here we are. It was that morning, and it was just going through the same thing again. Where's my pocketbook? Do I have my keys? That whole feeling of, I can't believe I'm going down this road again. And I just said, you can't stay here. I can't do it. Then take me to Danvers. To rehab? So are you going to be the professional rehabber? Is that, whatever, I'm just going to leave. And he left, and he went to Haverhill. And the house that we grew up in is vacant. It's been vacant for 2 years. And he got in, left the house in Hampton at, noontime. My younger son heard from him at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was 7 o'clock that night, and my younger said, haven't heard from Michael, Mom. I think I'm going to go to Haverhill. And I'm like, okay. Not thinking in my mind that, why should I have let him go by himself? Should I went with him? Not really thinking of that. Always in the back end, but not thinking that day. And 7:30, I got that unruly call that, he's blue, Mom. He's blue, Mom.
So his brother found him.
His brother found him in the same house that Michael found his dad in.
So a lot of the emotional turmoil of everything that had been building up inside of him, he basically
I want to say
filtered
did
back.
that. Two friends told me he had a place to go for rehab, another sober living house that he was going to go live in. He was just waiting for that next paycheck, which was going to be like 2 days later.
Okay. Right.
So as a mother, do you believe him that he's going to go in 2 days, or do you kick him out and do the tough love and hope he learns, or?
Having been through the turmoil that you've experienced over the previous years because of the addiction issue, you made the call, and it was the right call regardless of the outcome. Unfortunately, the outcome was his passing. So you can't really dwell on that. You made the call that you knew you needed to make. In the hopes of bettering him. In the end, it doesn't always work, as we know in the addiction world out there.
No.
So, what brings you out tonight to tell your story? Because it sounds like, as many parents experience, you kept it within the inner circle of the immediate family. And tried to avoid all of the embarrassments, the roller coaster emotional aspects.
And I think
involved.
if he had cancer, which is a terrible thing to even think about or say, he probably would have been accepted easier, or probably would have been a little bit more. It's almost like the silent word that no one wants to talk about. Like
it's absolutely it's a deadly silence.
It's a deadly. If he had cancer, it'd be and how's your treatment, or So his friends wanted to do something for him, and it has turned into a memorial hockey game, and they wanted this for them to heal. And I think it has turned into not only them healing, but me now getting the word out to people that, it does happen to everyday people. It's not the person you see in the alley anymore. It's everywhere. It's so common that it's scary that it's so common.
It really, really is. There isn't, I can go back. Myself, my wife, we have 2 children that became addicted, with the heroin epidemic issue. They're both in recovery today, and we count our blessings from that perspective that, our children are here with us, unfortunately, where Michael is not with you. And, but from all of those experiences that we had, going through the trauma, the emotional highs and the lows, the enabling, the tough love, all of the issues that we've spoken about here. I guess it's just, when you talk about it with people, you realize how big an epidemic this really is. Because once somebody takes that step to say, I have a loved one or I have a neighbor, and all of a sudden it opens the gate.
You can't imagine how many people You just can't imagine
You know,
how many people
right.
know now.
And when we saw last month when, Governor Patrick obviously, realized that this is a public health menace, and declared it a public health epidemic, and hopefully additional resources are going to come in, and, more and more people come forward like yourself
Yep.
to share their story, because it's a story that can happen to any one of us.
Anybody.
It doesn't discriminate
It's
race,
money,
color, creed, sex, or
nothing.
religion. It touches all boundaries of
Yeah.
life out there today.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether it's somebody in middle school coming into high school, or somebody that's already gone out of
Right.
high school into college,
Right.
or even the adults that are out there. It's a real epidemic, and we need to bring it to the forefront. And I congratulate you for coming on
Thank
and
you.
sharing with us. So tell us a little bit about the hockey benefit. When is that going to take place?
Well, the hockey benefit is going to take place in May 11th, and when they book the hockey game...
Great day, my birthday.
Well, I'm a Taurus too, thank you, I'm May 1st. And a couple of people said to me, that's Mother's Day, right? And I'm like, oh.
That's correct. It is Mother's Day
And
this
I
year.
thought, oh, wow, that's kind of weird. But remembering when the kids were little, in the hockey world, they try not to book games on Mother's Day, or they try not to
Right.
book games on Father's Day. So the rink was available. Other than that, it was hard to get rink time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be May 11th. It's going to be from 4 to 6. It's going to be free to come in. We're going to have raffles and all kinds of bake sale. We're going to have Red Sox tickets to raffle off. We have some Medford kids that were on Michael's team in Medford, and we have Haverhill kids, and a couple other people in between who can skate, but not really hockey people. And we're gonna skate,
yeah.
and
And I understand the fundraising aspect. You're going to have a special. The money's going to go to a special cause.
Yep, the Chris Herron Fund, the Purple Project.
The Purple Project.
My son actually had seen him a couple of times. He comes to all the schools, all the high schools. I've never personally met him yet, but we're going to donate the money to him. We're also going to have a scholarship in Michael's name. And I think after the last couple of months of getting this going, we're going to do this annually now. And
That's great.
if Michael's dad could hear me right now saying that the only place I would want to be right now is in a hockey rink for my child, he would be like, thank God. I mean, because it was always so much when the kids were little.
So this is, in a way, the group of kids he grew up with in high school and
Both
shortly
Medford
after
and
college, Medford
Haverhill.
and Haverhill, coming together and
For a
them
cause.
themselves hailing themselves.
That's what it was. It was for
right.
them. They kept telling
Right.
me, we need to do something. And now they're telling me this is for me because you're going to be the star now. Look at what you're doing. You've been in the paper. Now you're going to talk. This is what it's caused from. You. That's what they say. This is for you. And for me, it's for them. They're the ones that thought of this. They're the ones that did this.
Well, it's a wonderful thing that that group of young men could come together and do something good.
Yes.
And the Purple Fund with Chris Herron obviously is a great organization. I've heard him speak many times in the past. Fantastic.
I've never
individual,
yet heard him, but
and we've got pretty much just about a minute left here. So I'm going to ask you if you had one thing to say to the parents out there, who may be dealing with an addiction issue of a family member or loved one, what would that be?
Well, don't deny it. Don't say, not my kid. And talk to whoever you can, whatever you can say, how you can say it, how you can do, whatever it is, do your best to do whatever you can do, whether it's to call a doctor, whether it's to take them somewhere, because it's not just the addict that's going through it, it's the family that goes through it as well.
Mm-hmm. And even if you have to commit the kid through a Section 35 to
I
save
did that
his life.
too. I did that
do that.
too.
Yeah.
I did that too.
Well, believe it or not, we're ready to wrap up here. I told you this was going to fly by pretty quick.
Thank you.
On behalf of all of us here at A Deadly Silence, Janice, thank you for coming in and sharing with us your story.
Thank you very much.
And reaching out to touch, the other parents that are out there who may be dealing with this. On behalf of all of us at A Deadly Silence, thank you, and we'll see you on our next episode.